Hi, this is Cindy,
And Michael.
and we are live, and Bella is with us. Kind of fussy, kind of like our video today, not wanting to go down. Oh, there's Daddy. Yeah. She's not wanting to go down to sleep, and oh, I should do a sound check. It looks like we have sound. Hopefully, this one's not too loud on here, but if we could just get a verification of that, that would be great. Our stream actually looks good right now. Good right now. Yeah, you see Grandpa? Grandpa is sitting on the couch back in the back. He and Grandma came to visit for the weekend. Yeah, that. Okay, she's going to be distracted behind. That's all right. So, looks like we have a few people in the room. And looks like they hear us, Mike. So,
okay, good. Tina's here, yep.
Tina's here. Your mom's here. Your mom's first one in the room. Rustic Traditions Homestead's here. Carrie's here. Hello, hello. Yeah. And she is going to do I'm going to be full of energy until I fall asleep and crash. Done? Good.
All right.
So she is starting to talk, by the way, a little bit. You want to say some of the things that she says?
Dada, dog. Sometimes chi-chi for chickens or cat type.
Cat, key cat.
So that's about it.
And all done.
Yeah.
I've heard all done a few times. I have heard some other things that haven't repeated themselves but sounded like they were intentional. But like when I said that we should change her diaper, I told her, let's go change her diaper. And she goes, no die. I'm like,
she's mostly been screaming for blueberries and peaches, though.
Blueberries and peaches, she definitely likes.
Peaches, I think, are the favorite.
Yeah.
Watermelon or sweet blueberries are probably the second. Unfortunately, blueberry season is effectively done as of this week, last week. So they are quickly disappearing for all of our local growers. And peaches are really, really coming to an end. But we got other good stuff coming.
And she does love Mike's sourdough bread. Is that rain?
Yeah, I think so. It was potential for rain.
Wow, it's raining. We need it.
We could use a little rain.
We had some last week, but yeah.
We had like 2 inches at one point.
Yeah, we did.
So a little too much too fast, but otherwise it's been dry.
Yeah, otherwise we have had a dry.
We had 2 weeks that were almost
July and August.
90-some degrees and dry. Yeah, it was getting crispy out.
So how have you guys all been? It's been a while. I know last time we were having technical difficulties. There we go. We just froze on our computer, our software for a second.
So we went from July 4th to Labor Day?
We basically did because the August stream just wasn't working.
Yeah, we did like 15 minutes. That was a mess.
Yeah.
The internet was
not happy with us.
We were okay. I think it was the transmission out of our property.
Yeah, something was going on.
Something in the neighborhood was not good.
But we do have some updates for this month. We did get a video up today. That's been another thing. This was recorded on July 25th, so I'm sorry for waiting for so long. But I finally had people watching Bella and moments without Bella to actually record some, edit it. So we got this one, day in life of a 9-month-old farm girl, which I might end up changing that name slightly because we've had a few things go into our spam comment folder. I don't think it likes the farm girl part. So, not that YouTube is...
We're not really a farm anyways.
Well, we're not selling produce from our farm. We're more of a homestead kind of in a way because we eat the food from our property. Don't really sell it other than pasta. But we don't grow the wheat for that. So we did get that video up and running. Carrie says she put a deck on the back of the house yesterday.
8 by 22, that's a pretty big day project.
Yeah.
Everybody around here has been putting on decks and renovations, and of course the supplies have been limited around the country.
Yeah.
For decking, I had a hard time getting just a couple pieces of decking fir, or I guess it was decking cedar, for repairing our swing set, and had to get some 14-foot long 2x6 by 14-foot instead of 12-foot, and they were pretty pricey, and that was about the only thing left. So did the job though. We just added 2 extra feet onto it and have room for one more swing now.
Yeah, Tina says change it to Homestead Girl. I might change it to Homestead Girl. 9-month-old Homestead Girl. So there might be a title change to that, but we'll get to it. But that video is up today. It's mainly following Bella around all day. Or she's joining us today. But, baby girl. This is also what happened just a week ago. Bella is going to be talkative today, sorry.
Butchered our second group of chickens for the summer. Our second group all got cleaned out by some vicious wildlife, and so this is our second group.
Yeah, and we did most of the chickens. We did not do all the chickens. We left 6 behind.
They grew much slower than the first ones, and we don't know why. Because of pressure on the chicks, they changed up the breeds and snuck in some small guys, or the heat or the feed regime changed, but they were
a lot smaller.
A pound and a half average, or almost smaller. They were really on the small side.
So the ones we left behind were all less than a pound and a half.
Or if we missed a week on the first ones and went an extra week and didn't know it, I don't know.
Maybe. These were 9 weeks old though.
But they're not. Yeah, the current ones, even the few that we left behind, still haven't caught up in a week.
Yeah.
So they're going to sit for another few weeks until our third group is ready.
Yep. Hey, Mom, we're on live. Yeah, she's playing peekaboo with Bella, which is fine. But yeah, so we had huge variation, and the next group has huge variation also. I don't know if it's a male, female, huge discrepancy. I haven't seen that much.
Yeah.
Hubby has been working with brother-in-law. He's a general contractor using
$300 on a sizable deck is a good price.
Using spare pieces from the deck. Oh, that's awesome.
Well, that happens. You got all that stuff that builds up that are extras, and they're very usable if you find the right project. Or people that like to do you run some short planks, and people want a lot of long planks, and you don't have a problem putting a few short planks in.
You know what's funny? I first read GC as genetic counselor.
Oh, I read it as general contractor.
It took me a second to switch to the building acronym. So, yep, we have that. We did not film that, but we did take some still pictures, because the idea is maybe if we get a slow period, we can get a chicken butchery book out. We have pictures to put in a pork butchery book that we need to put together. So we're going to get a series. We'll have chicken, beef, and pork all together. Hopefully sometime, maybe this winter, we'll release 1 or 2 of those. But we'll work on those when we have.
I have no idea what the winter schedule looks like yet.
No. So
the fall continues to look very busy.
Yeah. So we always think we're going to get a slow winter, but it seems to never catch up with us.
You're dropping bread all over and you're lapping on the floor. I don't think she's eating any of it.
No, she's playing with it now. Yeah. So we'll stop feeding her bread. Can you pre-order?
I don't know when it's going to come. It might be dangerous.
Hey, Bandana.
At least let's get working on it.
I'll tell you what. You keep watching us, and we'll let you know when it releases.
I've also had 3 groups request that in the general area that I come out and help
with butchering
classes. Or help do butchering classes this fall, because all the butcher shops and processors are still overloaded. So if you don't have a date already set aside, they don't have it, and sometimes they're even getting bumped and rejected. So I've turned down all 3 people at this point, because I'm too busy.
Booked.
My pasta business keeps us busy on Saturdays, and it keeps me busy Monday through Friday, which only leaves Sunday to catch up on anything else. So at the moment, until I get farmers markets put away, which is after Thanksgiving, and even then, very undetermined. So as much as I told everybody I would love to come out and hang out for the day or assist or teach a class, I'm like, I can't commit to it, and I can't get any of the pre-work done, depending on what is needed. So I said, yeah, not right now. So
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. Our neighbors have friends that have hogs. He goes, hey, you want to help? They got a whole lot of hogs, but we need to break them ourselves. And I had a farmer come from 2.5 hours away to get some equipment from me that I was selling because they have cattle that are running 3 or 4 months past their butcher date, and they still can't get a date. And they decided, since they're all private sale beef that they've been pre-purchased, that they've made agreements with the purchasers that they're going to do a lot of the processing themselves, and so they're building a small on-farm to be able to process, and they have some experience with deer and other things and pork over time, but they're going to start processing for private exchange with the owners, just to stop feeding them and be able to take in the money that they've invested, and people want the product. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's that way across most of the country, but I can tell you the whole upper Midwest is that way.
Yeah. So, and bandana, yeah, we mentioned a little bit earlier, but I'll repeat. Dada, she's been saying for a long time. It hasn't always been directed at Dada, but it is being directed that way sometimes now. Dog, key cat, sometimes something that sounds kind of like chick. And yeah, da. And all done are the words right now. So she's getting her animals down and dad, but she hasn't done mama yet. So, and Tina working 6 10-hour days.
So it's that weird situation. It's actually a lot like 2008 in New York when things crashed. For us, I was working crazy hours for the same or less money, and I had significant more workload and less crew, and we were trying to hold together a property, and so there's groups of people all over town that didn't have work or didn't have enough work, and then
You okay?
others of us, to maintain our job and keep the companies afloat, were working nonstop, and I think we're seeing a little bit of that going on at the moment. So I guess we're all thankful that we're too busy and not too slow for those of us that are too busy. So.
Yep. Just had to grab a toy for her. Yeah, so I think she likes talking as much as her daddy. Yeah, she's definitely a chatter. Bella, oh wait, I skipped ahead there. We have been having some good tomato harvest recently. Our tomatoes finally are coming in.
Yeah, they came late.
They
got in late.
They got in late, but
they're doing all right now.
Hey. Dad. Okay. So we do have actually squash. We're very much in summer squash and tomatoes right now.
Yep.
Like crazy. We're going to get a bunch of peppers coming in soon, and we're going to get you
gotta be a little quieter.
That's kind of loud, baby. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. If it's not the internet, it's a baby.
So yeah, so the garden's Cindy's been doing most of the garden. Things went in somewhat late. They took off a little bit late, but we have had a fairly hot, dry summer. But we've had intermixed rains being a little bit off the coast that have maintained the garden pretty good. We've actually really not watered it, hardly, maybe once in the last 2 months. And so things are taking off. We're definitely behind even other people that were, non-greenhouse. We had some greenhouse starts, but we're starting to cook a lot of zucchinis. We have some kakutsa, which is a long Italian skinny, silly squash that's nice and thin-skinned and easy to work with. We're getting, this year we have a lot of paste tomatoes. Most people end up with too many cherry tomatoes and too many slicers because they're attractive, but if you don't eat them right away, they don't make super sauce. Cherries make okay sauce, and slicers make okay, but they're a little watery. Actually, cherries kind of make good flavor sauce. They just got a lot of skin. So We planted more paste tomatoes, and we actually, for the first time, may have a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, everybody, as you know, is struggling with canning jars and lids. I don't can most of the tomatoes, although we can a few things. I have a decent number of jars just from recycles. Although I typically rely on buying new lids, since you're supposed to not reuse lids. You can kind of get away with it if they're not, if you haven't jammed a knife in there and damaged the seal, you might be able to get away with it. But you need to be careful. Um, but we actually, our tomatoes, we'll probably freeze and we'll put them in bags, and then we'll quart containers, like Chinese restaurant soup containers is the way I do a lot of the sauces. I just find it easier to work with it.
Yeah.
And then reuse the container. So we'll probably move that way. So I haven't run into a major lid issue, but I definitely could stand to get a few lids when they become available.
Yeah, we have a bunch of like berries that we harvested this year that we need to make jam, and we usually can that. So, so we do have some, but we stick them in the freezer until we're ready to can them, so that it's not really a rush at the moment.
Yeah, because
there's no time.
at the end this time of year, September, October, when the tomatoes are really ready for saucing, is some of my busiest times of the year, and we're kind of running on fumes, running 2 markets, getting wholesale ready for the end of the season and the cold weather, and then moving into holiday traffic or getting ready for that. So it's not a great time to be spending days making sauce beyond the sauce. Actually, I am making a lot of sauce this year.
You are.
Because we're selling 2 sauces, but
in-person sales only.
in person, yeah, they're frozen. So we don't have them co-packed and in jars. At this point, I don't know if a lot of the co-packers are running out of jars, so I don't know if they'd even take on.
I don't know.
We're kind of moving that direction. I want to do that project, but
hey, yeah. Linda, missed your coming in.
Yep.
So, and Curie finally got her church is back in person, so she's doing her nursery job. So
things are still pretty tentative around here.
Yeah.
Churches, some are open, some are very dispersed on, some are kind of not or very limited. Schools, sort of last moment, the grade schools, high schools have gone all online instead of hybrid. Sports have been on and off again, and they just opened up
pools and gyms.
Pools and gyms, and they reinstated football after not reinstating football, but it's all scuttled in a mess. I'm not sure they're really going to be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
At the high school level, and then at the college level, a lot of the colleges are hybrid or limited contact. Western Michigan, which is in town, is currently doing that, but there's running bets on how many weeks of school they're going to get in.
Our alma mater in town, Kalamazoo College, has gone all virtual.
Last minute, they, like with less than a week, they went virtual. Students actually had a protest. I think freshman students were starting to show up or hadn't even shown up, and current students, and they're only going to have freshmen on campus. It's a small school that really prides itself in in-person teaching, so it's a big deal for them. But yeah, so Western Michigan's still running hybrid, but a lot of the schools around the area, the big schools, have shut down to all
virtual.
All virtual. So it's all in flux, but I would say things are not. And actually, our COVID numbers in our county have always been pretty good and definitely on the low side. But just east and north of us, they've been higher. And I think on the state is actually well above the middle ground, and it's moving back, not at peak, but it's moving back up, and it's not all in Detroit, it's more mixed around, so it's sporadic. So we're definitely not out of the clear. For people just going full out. I guess being in rural Texas has its advantages right now.
Carrie said last week she grabbed a jar of green tomato salsa verde, and the lid came off, and the had come off unsealed. And
not a good idea.
Growing mold. Yeah, that doesn't work too well. So yeah, never want.
Yeah, you're lucky being, especially if your community keeps fairly insulated and doesn't have a lot of people moving in and out of it. It definitely reduces risk and allows you to do more things more open and freely.
Yeah, we're off a major highway between Detroit and Chicago, so you do kind of see through Michigan this darker area of counties on either side of the highway that are a little bit higher in number than the other rural areas.
But overall, it's not affecting us.
No.
greatly. Obviously, we're wearing masks all over the place in businesses and
I'd
things.
say your business is actually probably up somewhat due
It's
to it.
probably up a little bit
Little
at
bit.
this point. It was up, it was way down, and then it was up, and I think it's probably balanced out to maybe a slight advantage. But we were also seeing year-to-year growth, so I don't know how. I know our growth
Yeah,
is in
that's true.
different ways, but yeah, it might be up a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, I was expecting it to be up significant over last year.
Yeah. And we did get out to the big lake a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
So this is Lake Michigan, which we live about a half hour from the lake, so not very far, but we don't get out to the beach very often. This is at the end of a pier in South Haven.
That's a channel that all the yachts and boats go in and
The
out.
channel's up on this side, and the lake is out.
Big
out
lighthouse
here.
right in front of that. So.
Yeah, so we are facing the lighthouse, and the person taking the picture is taking the picture from the lighthouse side. But yeah, for those of you guys who've never seen the Great Lakes, you can get good waves on this lake. It was actually not that disturbed when we were there. It has some waves on the shoreline, but not too much. But yeah, you can't. Most people are surprised you can't see across the lake. You can't see across to Wisconsin at all.
No.
It's too far away.
Funny thing is, if you get the weather right, in certain points you can get a reflection. You can get a light skip, and you can see a reverse reflection of Chicago. And people never believed it, and they've proved it to be true.
Yeah.
But you have to get the light just the right way. And there's a few places you can do that, and occasionally you can get, it's even harder, but you can get some sound jump from some cities across. But that's yeah. But in general, no, you can't.
Yeah.
Can't see. Can't see over.
They used to run some ferries across from Wisconsin to Michigan.
Still do.
Some they do, but I don't. Definitely not as much as they
There's
used
a car
to,
ferry, and then and a person. They shut that down for a little bit. I don't know if that's back up and running.
Yeah.
It may not be right now, but.
Carrie says she couldn't call the Silkies and coach, and she found a lovely 9-year-old girl who has chicken resort and spa. That's cute. Yeah, we have too many boys in our Silky flock, but I do have a picture for you.
Yeah, I did hear about the bald eagle attacking the drone over Lake Michigan. Yes,
that's funny. So this is actually what they look like cooked. Silkies, that is. So
that was crock pot braised. So braised for 6 hours, slow, steamy, and they do soften up. You need to give them 3-4 hours at a minimum or longer in a crock pot or Instapot, but they will break down and tenderize, and the meat is very dark, like other land red meat, and it's quite flavorful.
Yeah.
It's not strong; it's just flavorful.
So yeah, most people don't realize all Silkies have that kind of black skin, which is really dark gray skin, but yeah, kind of looks
and
funny.
The meat is a little, some of the meat, the leg and thigh, and not all of them, but
it's
some
pretty
of them,
dark.
The meat's pretty dark.
Yeah. So we also had an interesting thing with all our tomato harvests. I caught somebody enjoying a black cherry tomato. We've noticed in the past tomatoes on our floor with like fang marks in them. So we joked that we had a tomato vampire, but Helix apparently is actually eating the tomatoes now. At least partial tomatoes.
He also likes to throw up a lot, so I don't know if that's making it better or worse.
Yeah, I don't know. But he definitely enjoyed that tomato, and he's been doing that since we lived in New York. I don't think it makes it worse, because I don't think he's actually any worse now than any other part of the year. He just tends to have that problem. Yeah.
Likes to eat a lot of grass and lick a lot of fur.
Yeah, he is fur. He cleans himself a lot, so he is a very clean cat, but he gets fur balls. We also have one hen that keeps jumping out, and I don't know if it's Houdini. Lucky is not reacting to her jumping out, so I don't think it is, but she's hiding eggs all over the place now. I found one nest, and then she stopped using it when I took the eggs, and she set up another nest. Found that nest a week later, took all the eggs out. I thought she had set up a third nest, but apparently she went back to the second nest. Puddin', luckily, is not interested.
Yeah, no interest in chickens, which is weird for a dog.
Yeah, so she pretty much ignores the chickens. I've seen her start chasing one once, but I yelled at her to stop, and she hasn't chased one since. So, yeah, so she is really good with the chickens. And we've actually been running our meat chickens in her yard this summer. So,
Yeah, so they're
yeah.
a little more protected.
Yeah.
So they've got a natural 6-foot fence, which will keep big critters out, and then they've got their small coops. So
Your tweaker is taking potatoes and avocados. Your tweaker? Yeah. I'm not sure what you mean by your tweaker. But we had one other thing going on today, big news. Grandma's birthday was not technically today, but they came over this weekend just to celebrate her birthday today. 80th birthday this last week, and we had a big king crab boil because she loves her crab.
we actually didn't boil them because we actually put them on the grill.
Yes, we did.
Finished them on the grill. You can finish them in the oven or the grill, but yeah.
Yeah. So I had a bunch of
Blue
king
crab. You do a boil.
Yeah. We did have king crab. Oh, a black cat named Tweaker. Gotcha. She's stealing potatoes and avocados.
It must be a more play toy ball than food source.
Yeah, that's my thought. I can't imagine a cat eating potatoes or avocados. Potatoes, if they're cooked, maybe, but I don't know of any animal who eats them raw. But yeah, so we had some really good food today, and we had family over outside where we can all hang out. Couple cousins came over, so it was a fun day. I had the cousins, Bella's cousins, that is, do an egg hunt and find the one girl's nest, and it happened to be right where she was leaving it. The second time I found it, so I guess she started up again there. But
Pyrenees leaves them alone too. Our previous Dane and Bernard did not leave them alone. When they flew over the fence in their yard, they got 2 of them.
Yes.
Which we can't really blame them. We blame the chicken on that. So.
Yeah, and we say the chickens committed suicide by jumping over the fence into the dog yard.
Yeah.
So, but this one has been hanging out with Puddin' without a problem. Is not scared of Puddin'. Puddin' isn't scared of her. So they seem to have a truce going. Yeah. So and got all that. We can talk about zucchini. We've been getting summer squash.
And I'm sure all you guys are heavy into the soft summer squash cooking. We've started a couple weeks late, but we definitely have plenty, so we are cooking it not every day, but most every day. Yeah. We're trying to, of course, the biggest deal is to pick them small, to very small or that small. We haven't had to go that small, but if your concern is you're getting really big ones, you can't use them all, just pick them really small.
That's true.
Because you can use a lot more of them, and they're super tender, and they're fun to work with small. So we did have a couple of big ones that got away, but we've stewed some. I guess we've just sauteed some, we've stewed some. We made some quesadillas, and we actually used some Italian, like flat bean, pole beans, with some squash and just some cheese and corn tortillas, just a real simple, actually vegetarian, tasty meal.
Yeah, we had some with some pasta, of course.
Yep.
So, so lots of things you could do with zucchini.
You didn't have any other pictures from your mom or birthday?
No, I didn't take many pictures. My dad has a bunch. I'm gonna have to ask him to send them to me.
Okay. But I have a few crab pictures. I didn't take many.
Yeah, because I didn't even have my phone out until the end. But yeah, I only had the one birthday.
I just got done making crab chowder.
Oh yes.
So that
leftover crab and.
So I had a few shells. I had a few shells from knuckles that and joints that I had. You cut the little pieces between because we'd opened them all up and made it easy. So you know. And then we didn't eat quite all of it, so I was able to quickly boil those shells in the stock. And I had some meat. I probably had a pound and a half of meat remaining. It was a good amount, so we pulled that and I made 2.5 gallons of chowder. So we did potatoes from the garden and celery and onions. Corn. We had corn with dinner, so I took the remaining corn and crab chowder. And drop of white wine, a little brandy at the end, some milk, some cream, that stock that we made, or from the shells, strain that out, and I just finished that actually a few minutes before live show. So great way to salvage and recover, because reheating shellfish is not tasty. It's not texturally very good. So the best thing to do is salvage anything that remains, and obviously the shells have almost more flavor than the meat portion, and make a soup or a cheddar. So we did that. I haven't cooked king crab legs in probably 10 years. I was doing it quite a bit at one place when the prices dropped, and I realized it's probably been 10 years since I've done it, even in a restaurant. Done other crab, blue crab lump and jumbo lump and all that stuff, but I haven't done king.
Yeah.
So we figured it was a special occasion.
And my mom's from Maryland originally.
She's from Maryland. Now these are, of course, from Alaska or Russia, totally on the other world end of things, but the flavors are good, and we thought we'd do that because they've really been at home all year, and can't go out. We can't go out and do much so we figured we just kind of do that here.
I mean, for her 70th birthday, we were in New York, and we invited her out. We had hey, Bella. Apparently, we had my sister surprise her and come out too. Okay, come here. Oh.
Yeah, I guess that was.
Grandpa's not the mama. So, and then we took her into the city to a show and dinner in the city.
Which I don't remember because I'm sure I was working during the dinner. And so.
I gotta turn the volume on us. Bella, are you gonna take it, or do I have to put you to bed now? Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! You're gonna dog. Yes, dog is behind us. Yeah. Anyway, so that was 70th birthday. So 80th birthday, we kind of, during COVID, you can't quite do something quite as big. So, but we figured we'd go big on the crab and go with king.
Yeah, so that was definitely special and sort of a rare thing for anybody, and I definitely had the experience of working and knowing how to prepare them. It's not that hard, actually. So
yeah,
I should have probably done a demonstration on preparing
king crab
legs.
Not
that anybody's going to be out catching them unless you're on a crab boat up in Alaska. Doing the Bering Seas thing.
Yeah, right.
But you might end up with them frozen. By the way, they always come steamed. It's illegal to send fresh crabs of any type that aren't alive. So they're steamed. So they're frozen, and they're very salty because they're cooked in brine and a heavy brine to preserve them and help the freezing. And I'm not sure if the crab meat's probably salty to begin with. I don't think crabs have a system to regulate their salt. The sea salt is limitedly regulated in their bodies. So anyway, they're steamed already and frozen that way. So you can actually thaw them out and eat them as crab cocktail, the way they are, assuming they haven't been abused. However, they're generally nicer to put them in a hot oven or on a hot grill with some butter, clarified butter, and toast them off, or even a little toaster oven, and just give them a little bit of warmth, and then potentially just a little color, and then have some additional butter or sauces. So they're actually pretty easy to prepare. Cutting them open is hard, but they're much easier to cut a king crab than a snow crab or any of the other ones, because their portion of meat is so much bigger.
Yeah. And Linda misses fresh crabs.
I used to
flounder,
do a lot
oysters.
A lot of oysters, a lot of flounder, and a lot of soft shell crab in the summers. When we were in New York, everywhere I worked, we did a lot. And that's where we get back here and you see prices are expensive. It's kind of rarer, and the stuff is usually junk. And you look at it, and people are like, oh, yeah, well, it's great. And you go, no, it's junk. Why? You're charging extra money. I know you got to ship it inland, but I'm not paying extra money for junk. That's inferior, or it's old, or all
better
freezer
to go
burned.
To the source and get it there.
Yeah, so it's that's why it's even kind of more rare. But the nice thing about the king crab as they come in hard frozen, and can get them either commercially, restaurant commercial.
Mhm.
We actually got them at Costco because they have a very, very good supplier. So we ended up doing that.
Yep. And I am through everything, all my pictures, because I really only had about half hour to put pictures together for a whole month. But I think we've also caught up with most of the stuff from the month. But what I wanted to do was we also need to do a giveaway, which we didn't get a chance to last month. But we have, how many people do we have in the room?
That's been frozen for
Yeah,
a long
our
time.
viewer count on our screen is frozen, so I can't even tell how many people are in the room. But we'll just, since we really haven't done many giveaways, we'll keep it open to everyone. I think there's only a handful of people in the room. But we have a book, it's a foraging book by Samuel Thayer, and he has written a few of these books. Yeah, you like that book? It's The Nature's Garden, and it has edible wild plants in there and lots of good pictures and descriptions and how to use them, even things like your prickly pear. And
which we need to reestablish. We tried to plant some, but it was in too dark of an area. We need to get them back.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have a few things we need to try to reestablish in our food
Lost
forest
a few
area.
of our things that we planted this spring because they were getting in really at the end of the
end
of the window, but they got shipped to us at the end of the window, so some of them did not do well. Most of them have done fine.
Yeah. St. Mary's University Oyster Festival, and oysters served every way people eat them. Yeah. That's awesome. So yeah, so we have a nice foraging book here.
Your phone says 10. Okay.
Okay.
Our computer, one of our screens that's running or not running says 1. We know there's more than one person.
Yeah, exactly. There's more than one person chatting.
So 10.
10's good.
Small group between a holiday, and we're doing it a little less consistently right now. So I know we don't get quite the numbers because people are busy and forget, but that's all right.
So we're not going to.
10's good, so the odds are good of
winning.
If the book is not of interest to you, we can send you 2 bags of pasta.
And yeah, so
fall pumpkin pasta is ready as of this weekend. It was sold. And fall blend, which is 2 colors of pumpkin, cocoa, unsweet cocoa pasta, white and black blended. Hopefully should be in bags by the end of next week, or the end of this week. So those are coming up also for our fall return of fall flavors.
Somebody's trying to climb me. So the question today, and the first person who shows up on our screen will win their choice of that book versus the pasta. And you can let us know either in our chat, but I would say tell us where to send it by emailing us at parttimepermies@gmail.com. But the question you have to answer correctly, dog, not that. The question you have to answer correctly is, what beach did Bella get to go to for her first beach trip? If you can name the body of water, the body of water that we went to visit for Bella's first beach trip, first one to answer correctly will get their choice of pasta versus, the foraging book. How do you prepare the pumpkin pasta is a question from your mom.
Yeah, so pumpkin pasta, it's a mostly semolina wheat pasta, but we use a dehydrated pumpkin because we like how. Oh, Linda Taylor, Lake Michigan.
Lake Michigan.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Linda Taylor, I think you've won in the past.
That's right.
But if you just let us know what you'd like us to send, the book or the pasta, and where to send it, that would be great. And you can email it to us, or you can send us a message through Facebook. Either one.
Oh, Tina,
light,
distant second.
Yeah.
A minute later. That's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. But you guys are both right. It was Lake Michigan. Yeah, up down girl. She's not an uptown girl. She's an up-down girl.
So yeah, pumpkin pasta is made with a concentrated dehydrated pumpkin, which we really like because it controls the flavor and it concentrates the flavor versus using a fresh pumpkin puree, which would be inconsistent
Ooh, I'm getting
in
kisses.
water content and flavor. And then it's mixed together with our wheat. And we use a casarecce little twist pasta is what we prefer for a lot of the flavored ones because it's universally a good pasta. But what you can do with it, you can put it in just a traditional tomato sauce. It actually tastes fine, but it's really nice with roasted vegetables or caramelized vegetables of almost any type, including onions and shallots and pumpkin or just pumpkin or many different things. So oil and garlic or herbs, roasted vegetables. It's great with smoked or roasted meats, so chicken or crumbled pork sausage, Italian sausage. It's also very nice with seafood. If you think about something like scallop or shrimp that has a sweetness, and the pumpkin has a little bit of a sweetness, but it also has, it's not really sweet, but it's just a little hint. There's a nice earthiness, a sort of a subdued earthiness to pumpkin, and that bridges nicely. So it's surprisingly versatile. And then we also, so I like doing it with seafood, and it works very nice with curry. So
Yes,
pumpkin shows up in Indian curries and other curries around the world very frequently as a filler and a highly nutritious item. So stewed pumpkin or roasted pumpkin. So using curry flavors, whether it be a coconut curry or an Indian ghee and all the different types of curries that can be built up, we found that it does excellent with curry and whatever else you like to stick in there. So you can really do a tremendous amount with it. You can also do saffron or turmeric or tomato saffron sauce, and that gets expensive. But
you can grow your saffron.
Yeah, we actually had somebody who grew and gave me a very little bit of saffron, which we still need to use.
Which is what plant?
It is the stamen of a specific crocus.
Yes.
And you have to hand select, and there's like 2 or 3 of them in each one, and you gotta basically tweezer them out and dry them.
Yeah. So that's why it's so expensive. You have to pull out the stamen of each crocus and then dry it, and that's your saffron.
Yeah.
Carrie says your phone was slow like always. Answer post at the same time I heard the question.
Yeah, I know. It's bad.
Oh no. Yeah, and sometimes there's everybody's got a slightly different delay on the system here, so yeah, that it does make it a little bit hard. Our internet has been holding up. I mean, we're a little bouncing around in the beginning, but it's been up in the 4,000.
We haven't seen it that good in a long time. I don't know if people are distracted doing other things tonight.
Maybe. There's nobody on the internet tonight. Who knew that would happen? So that's been crazy. That's good though. But yeah, so I mean, really, I don't know if any of you guys have any more food questions, but our month, it's been busy, but we've been
making pasta and fixing equipment and both around the house and business, catching up on things that are broken or needed updates. Actually, the big step forward was this week. I finally got a new label that we had designed, ordered, and bought a specific printer. It's called a thermal transfer printer. It allows us to modify and put in the names of the pastas. We got all of those components up and working. It wasn't that hard. We just were so busy to get it set up. And so we labeled our first batches with the new label, and there's probably still a little more messing around with that, but we got it pretty good, and that's going to save us some time of putting 4 stickers on the front. It looks almost the same, but we've condensed them and we're down to 1 sticker. It's a clear background surrounding it, so it has the same look. And they're going on pretty easily, and it's also a refrigerator freezer stable, and we're having some problems with some of our fresh pasta and our sauces, which we freeze. They stick on good, but the freeze thaw, the very light softening of the outside from sitting in a cooler sometimes or getting home, causes some of the labels to release. So I have not tried those, but that is
supposed to work there.
so it should make a even more professional, better applied logo, and will also make logo. Those have less stickers, but it still has enough. So that's going to be helpful.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so I've got a bunch more to do on that project. And I just had to go order 15,000 more because I only brought in 1,000 to make sure that they were working, but they're very expensive in small doses. So I had to buy a whole lot to bring the cost down, and then I had to buy a couple other variants. So I think I bought some blanks for the back. I think I bought almost 20,000 stickers. Are ordered up to come in the next week or two. So. Yeah.
So that's a big, huge time saver. If any of you are trying to sell products, you know how to label your product.
Labeling is a big part, both setting it up correctly and legally and looking good, but also getting your packaging ready and then getting your packaging filled can kill a business. Yeah. If you don't, if you don't have it set up. And there's some easy ways and some relatively cost efficient, although it's a big expensive part of what we do is getting stuff in bags. Yep. Pay a lot of hours and we have one filler piece of equipment that we got also that a year ago up and running, a little over a year ago, that's helped tremendously. Long pasta though is not able to do. We have to do that by hand.
It's long pasta.
We
it's
really
crazy.
don't. We need to take. I think there's a little showing on the website. I actually need to take it down. I have basically no long pasta in stock right now.
It's a pain to package. It's
We have to hang it. We have to gather it. We have to hand weigh it. We need to package it. It's
So it's kind of funny because a lot of the people doing like flavored pastas and stuff that sell locally are doing long pastas, but that is a pain in the rear.
Well, they're doing specialty ones. That's all they do. So they gather them up. They may have drying's hard. I mean, they have some of the artisan ones that are running. Some of them run up in the $10-12 range, and I know why, because of the time and the ingredients, and then that packing process. Yeah, it's pretty expensive. We think of spaghetti being some of the cheapest, and that's because there's huge automated equipment. It makes it, dries it, presses it, it cuts it, it and dries, trims, and it packs it. But that's a big deal. Yeah. We are not, to be able to get any system that comes close to that, you're talking probably multi-million-dollar, true factory, which kind of dilutes the quality and flavor that we're able to get by being much, much smaller. Yeah. So yeah, long pasta is tough. Yep.
And my work has been crazy, so that's also part of the reason why I haven't had time to do videos. I've been working a little bit longer hours, and because we had there's only 2 genetic counselors where I work, so the other one was off for a week unexpectedly, and instead of rescheduling patients, I got to take them all on. So
we fixed the playset. You didn't have any pictures of that.
Oh yeah, no, we fixed the playset.
Bella's playset, which was inherited back probably 2 owners at least,
and featured in some of the road stuff when they were here.
Yeah, so it was starting to fall forward a little bit a year ago, and it's continuing to move forward pretty significantly, even probably more than we realized. My concern was that I didn't worry about it too much, but then Bella was in the picture, and we're like, well, we might need to actually care about that. We still haven't really power washed it or recoated it. It's California cedar, so it's got a bunch of age on it, but it's pretty good. What we noticed was it wasn't anchored deep into the ground, and also the bottom 4x4s were starting to decay, and it was actually falling forward partly because the sand had moved around it, but partly because the bottom wood was slowly breaking down from being in contact with the soil and wet. And so what we ended up having to do was we sunk some new 4x4s right next to it, but we had to square them up with each other, and then we had to jack with a car jack
the whole structure,
and then we had to square and level everything, and we ended up, I thought we might be able to do it just on the front 2, but we had to do all 4, and actually a 5th one for a slide, so that took all day with my dad. But we've cut it 3 feet down, there's concrete in there, it's lifted up actually a couple inches, it might be an inch or two taller than it was originally, but so it's well supported. And then we also decided to switch out the beam for the swings, which were still hanging in there pretty good, but might have been getting a little weak. So I tore out all the hardware and tore it apart, and then had to measure out and custom rebuild in the same scenario with a new beam that we created, which was another half a day or more, and it was actually pretty expensive.
Those beams are big.
It was well over $100 between. I had to add in some hardware that was missing and replace some. I reused a lot of it and then re-anchored. I was a little over. I bet it was $120 to do that beam.
Wow.
Between hardware and the two 2x6s. So
yeah,
it was cost. I figured it was going to cost $60, $70, $80. So I was surprised it was kind of pretty. But those plate structures are expensive. So versus buying a new one,
it's better.
Versus updating and making sure this one keeps going and is safe is worth it.
Okay. You got Tina talking to people.
So are you dehydrating onions and sour cream? So you're making a sour dehydrated?
No, Linda was saying that in her 50s she made the instant mashed potatoes for the first time, single serve for her husband. Don't know how she feels about how good it was. And she's a little annoyed because she always makes them by hand.
Well, it will never compare to making fresh mashed potatoes.
She thinks they're good.
And I will tell you the ones from the 80s and 70s and 80s and whatever were. So it goes through a freeze drying process, but they've really refined it and they spend a lot of money, the big companies, to handle it. So two things, they've gotten much better. And they're not cheap. If you look at the cost of potatoes and labor, and you look at the cost of instant potatoes, a lot of food service places that are on the lower end use them. But I know a lot of people that say, they're like, what are we doing? Why are you doing that? Because
they're expensive.
They're moderately expensive, and then people throw them around and waste them. So there's two kinds. There's sort of potato flakes, and then there's complete. And anytime you see complete on anything, from pancakes to a cake mix to mashed potatoes, it means everything you need: the eggs, the fat or butter, the salt, everything is there, and all you need to add is water. Whereas some you need to add milk or you need to add whatever. So there are ones you can buy that are complete, and they have buttery flavor, and they have some form of powdered fat in there, and I'm sure it's somewhat scary, but they are. So brand to brand, some are pretty good, some are very good, and some are not. Now you can get some chunky ones. I ran across that. So what I keep them around for in restaurants is two things. I keep them around for soups, so thickening soups like puree soups, a pea soup, or a cream-based soup that wasn't quite thick enough. So a good way to thicken them is add some potato pearls, and it cooks out so fast you can get yourself out of trouble and get a nice finish on that, or like a cream of broccoli and add a little potato. The other thing you can do is if you get in a jam on a banquet and you misportioned and somebody's scooping too heavy, or you got extra people, they dropped a pan, you can real quick throw some water in and some butter and some milk and whip, and you can have potatoes on hand. Really big banquets, if it's kind of outstripping your staff and availability, you can also buy potatoes, and you can cut them 50-50. And I never in a decent setting recommend doing anything more than doing a 50-50. So you got that fresh potato, you can cover up that small amount of dehydrated flavor, and they've neutralized a lot of it. And by doing a half fresh, half dehydrated, mixing them in at the end when you're adding your butter and milk and cream and whatever. But yeah, they are useful. They're also great in the circumstance where you need to make one portion, and there's a special request and you just can't get a potato boiled, or even take a baked potato and scrape it out, which tastes a little different. So yeah, in a pinch, there is a reason. Yeah, I would say when I went to college, and so they served a lot of instant mashed potatoes. A lot of cafeterias still rely on them. I do think they are better, but they sure don't taste the same. The other thing is they're very smooth, and so there's nothing like having a little bit of a hand whipped, and so there's just a little bit of a chunk in there. If you want to make sure it's home style, that's yeah. Yeah, with dorms we had almost every day they had whipped potatoes available on some menu item and on the buffet, and I can tell you they weren't cutting potatoes. So yeah, so don't be ashamed to use them. Uh, find a good brand, keep them around. You can do a few things for them. Also great in an emergency because they don't go bad for quite a while. So again, for making soups, thickening things, or a casserole, if you're making you have a little bit of ground meat, beef, lamb, whatever, and you're doing a shepherd's pie, and you're taking frozen vegetables, ground meat, and you have to whip up some instant mashed potatoes quick because you just don't want to go through that process and you want to eat a little faster. It probably works, and if you throw a little butter on, real butter makes a big difference. If you throw a little cheese on the top, it's going to get harder and harder to tell, and really feel like you got cut short on them. So yeah, don't over rely on them, but it's fine to use some instant potatoes. The pre-made scallop little disky dehydrates, they're pretty nasty though. Don't buy those. And then they come with the fake cheese, and to make scallop or au gratin in the box, and just add water or just add milk. Stay away from those. Those are terrible. They always taste like you didn't make it. So, but if you like them, and they have their own use. If you like them, they're fine. But from a chef end, I think they're terrible. And I've seen some lower end food service cafeterias try and get away with those. So, yeah. Yeah, a few lumps. Yep, I don't mind a few lumps. Now, this is interesting. When you make mashed potatoes, American mashed potatoes can be a little lumpy. They may have black pepper in them. French style pomme puree, or pomme is potatoes, or pomme de terre in French is apple of the earth, literally. And puree, any vegetable puree, would be milled. So you either put it through a press or a food mill to get it super smooth. Before when the potatoes are steaming hot and done, but before you've added any dairy. And they actually use a significant amount of butter and very limited liquid. And they typically use white pepper. The reason is white pepper does not stain that beautiful white pomme puree. It has a slightly different flavor, and white pepper is 2 or 3 times higher than black pepper, so make sure you use very little. Some people just don't like it. But yeah, I think that doing the whipped potato and doing that pomme puree and having it super smooth for the right item is great. But for Thanksgiving, I surely like a little bit of a little bit of texture is fine. Some black pepper, a little touch of if you want to make them pretty good, put a little touch of garlic, granulated garlic, not garlic powder. Granulated garlic is fine. And then if you add a little buttermilk, it adds a little tang and sourness. But buttermilk also prevents them from turning as yellow and sort of start as they age. So if you're keeping them on a hot line in a restaurant for 4 hours during service, and they can kind of get a little rough by the end, or you have to hold them in a hot box for 3 or 4 hours for a banquet and make them ahead of time and keep them hot, that tang of a little buttermilk and or sour cream. I'm sorry, sour cream. Buttermilk is pretty wet. You can do buttermilk, but sour cream, and just put in a spoonful, just a portion. Then you're gonna have, and the problem is it will look thick at first, but the sour cream melts out and it starts replacing some of your milk or butter volume, so it can get softer than you want. But the flavor and the whiteness that it allows can give you a very nice American style mashed potato.
Any good recipe for gratin?
Well, one that we did that was pretty simple was we would take a Japanese or a French mandolin, the little slicers, or you could run it through your food processor if you have a nice, like 1/8 of an inch slicer. Peel your potatoes, run them nice and thin. You're gonna have to put them in. You're gonna have to put them in a little bit of water, or what we'd actually do is slice them after they were washed off and peeled. We'd slice them right into heavy cream, because if you put them in ice cold water, it firms them up. They get very crispy like a potato chip. So if you just shoot them into cream, it keeps the oxygen off and keeps them whiter. And what we would do is one of two things. We'd either layer them in or kind of dump them in the pan, greased pan, and we would, and then we'd lay a nice coating so it looks good on the top. But we would actually you could actually pre-cook them partially, and you got to make sure they don't stick or break up too much. But you can get them kind of steamy hot and pre-cook them, then dump them in a pan. But we would use diced shallots, fresh thyme, fresh black pepper, and heavy cream. Some people do half and half, and that works fine. And we would use 1 quart of heavy cream for a hotel pan, which is the 2-inch. What are they, about 16 by 20 inches, or where the restaurant style longer pans. If you get the tinfoil pans and they're 2 inches deep, that's the same size roughly. So we would put in 1 quart of heavy cream with that, and then we'd follow up towards the end and we'd pour over the top halfway through a little more, and we would heavily wrap it with tinfoil and let it steam out from raw. However, I like to cook the shallots, the thyme, salt, pepper, or whatever, and have the hot cream, and then put the potatoes in there. And if you warm it a little bit, you can't shingle it in as nice, so you get that perfect. You can't get a perfect cut, but you can dump it in, and then you can kind of smooth out the top. So that will make a real nice potato. Now, if you want more cheese in it, when you shingle it in, you can take typically Gruyere or Emmentaler, so a Swiss style cheese. We would use that. And Swiss cheese works all right, but I actually like the Gruyere Emmentaler. It's a good acidic, fairly light colored cheese. It helps bind it together even better than if you do just the cream. And then you can, and it improves the flavor. So that's about it. You don't have to get too crazy with it.
Yep. How do you keep fresh ground garlic from caking, or are you just best to grind it on demand?
How do you use fresh garlic from caking? Yeah, fresh garlic actually gets, when the air gets on it, it gets very strong and sharp, and it goes bad pretty quickly. So 2 things you can do is you can peel the cloves out and put them in a container, a little air-tight container for a little bit, for a number of days. That's fine. But I would not
grind it.
Grind it. You just reminded me I need to order 5 pounds of garlic. I made an order tonight for Tuesday to pick up, and I
forgot your garlic.
Kicked myself that I ordered everything for vodka sauce, and I used my last garlic. So 5 pounds of peeled garlic. So you can buy peeled garlic. The problem is a lot of times it's kind of fermenty, so you want to use that fast. But anyways, what you can do is, best thing is to hand slice it with a very sharp knife and not mash it. Actually cut it like an onion and cut it across the side and cut it down the other way and then cut it into little dices. But it will oxidize. It'll turn dark yellow. It'll get stinky, and it'll get and that will carry over because there's an interaction with the air. So what you can do is submerge it in oil, olive oil or just neutral vegetable oil. In fact, if you're going to grind it, which is very hard, it shears and tears it up and makes the oils come out strong. Putting it through like a little chopper, Cuisinart. If you're going to do that,
Gables,
let it grind with some oil and some salt. Put a good pinch of salt in there and grind it with that neutral oil. Let it infuse the oil into it, and that will help block the oxidation and keep a more fresh garlic flavor. That may work for a few days. You can freeze it. So you could grind, if you buy, let's say you buy some good quality fresh peeled garlic, because you don't want to go through all the peeling. Well, there's some techniques to do that.
Dehydrate it and then
ground
it and caked.
Okay, yeah, so that's tough. You can add things like people basically foods, they put in talc, or they put in wood pulp, which you'll find in some of the cheeses. Less talc these days, because we know that talc isn't so good for us, but it's more crude fibers. But you can also use a lot of tapioca maltodextrin. You'll see in a lot of spices in it as an anti-caking agent, and there's and that basically helps. You can take oils with tapioca maltodextrin and turn them into powders, like bacon fat into bacon powder. Or truffle oil into truffle powder. It's about a 1-to-1 by weight, I want to say. It's a little bit expensive. So you can use things like that and blend those, and they will prevent, so it will be anti-caking. And you'll see that in a lot of your spices like possibly the garlic or onion that with humidity and over time will fall apart. So the best thing to do is vacuum seal them, freeze them. You can freeze dehydrated and dry items for better keeping because you have enzyme activity that continues also. And just keeping the chips around is nice. My personal preference
She
is
said nope, she'll deal with the caking. She doesn't like the ideas of adding to.
well, the tapioca maltodextrin. It sounds pretty crazy. It's tapioca, which is a natural. It's from cassava. It sounds a lot scarier than it is, but and you just stir it in. But yeah, my theory on onion and garlic granulated is it's so hard to make it. And the processes of how they do it are so mechanized and specific that you just buy it. However, if you have extra garlic and you want to make garlic chips and hold those around and then kind of chop them up or pulverize them close to the time you use them, or put them in a soup and whatever. I think that's a great idea because I don't do any of the above. We don't have time to make granulated garlic. It's kind of fun to try it. But yeah, it's on your fresh garlic, put it in oil. The one caveat is keep it in the refrigerator and get rid of it within a week because you do have that botulism risk. You can freeze it longer. So yeah.
Fish eyes equal tapioca. A little bit.
Well, so yeah, you can get tapioca powder, like tapioca flour, which you'll find in a lot of gluten-free recipes. It's actually was hard to get and now has become not so hard. Tapioca flour, refined tapioca flour, is kind of expensive, but you use very small amounts and it's very smooth, so you can use it in your fruit. It's one of the best things to use in your thickened fruits if you're doing like canned cherries and you want them in a thickened syrup. And it is a very natural product. So tapioca is a great thing to work with. It's clear when it gets cooked out. It has no flavor. It has a lot of thickening power. It can look a little gloppy when it gets too thick. But yeah, that's so there's one other anti-caking thing that's commonly used that's skipping my memory that also isn't really a big deal. It's nothing too bizarre. But yeah, caking of spices, even old spices like garlic and onion as they age, and it gets really humid in the summer, I've had them cake up on me. So the trick is to use them fast.
Daddy,
yep.
We were just saying bye-bye to Grandpa, like literally.
Yeah.
I think she's got a hint going.
Yeah.
She goes, it's time for bed.
Is it?
It is time for bed. And we go, mwah, mwah, yeah.
Yeah, so and the tapioca pearls are the same. That's the same material. And so tapioca is from cassava or manioc or yucca, whatever you want to call it. It's refined. They've taken the starches out of that plant and prepared them in different ways. So
I'm going to say good night.
It's a neat item.
I'm going to say good night. You got the end of the show and want to end it up. It's after 10 already.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Well, I'm here if anybody has any other questions.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Good night, guys.
Really? I didn't know they used tapioca starch and such. I mean, cornstarch is the old kitchen. Always have cornstarch is way cheaper than tapioca, but it's not quite as nice of a thickening item. But that's interesting. Yeah, we always keep boxes of cornstarch get ripped open and thrown all over in the kitchens when it gets really hot and humid and long days and people are uncomfortable. They dump it down their pants. It's always people are always laughing about that, especially if there's a white powder all over their black pants. It's a traditional kitchen thing. So, all right. Anybody else have questions? We'll be back again the first Sunday night of the month for, I guess, September, so for October, unless something really bizarre comes up. And then we will, I don't know, as we go into the late fall and in the winter, if we'll return to weekly or every other week, we may more likely do that. One of the big reasons we went to monthly was because there's just so much going on and we're so busy, and I think a lot of you are. So yeah, so it just made better sense. But as we head into winter, we might do more Yeah, the whole need to calm the fire is that's a universal thing. There's a lot of heavy bodies in the kitchen and everybody in general. And there's a lot of commercially laundered polyester pants that are issued in kitchens, which is why I always buy my own cotton pants. It is well worth having proper chef gear in the kitchen and not using what is issued. But yes, once in the kitchens you sweat a lot, and when you sweat a lot, the salt from sweating also, if it dries, becomes very abrasive. So yes, when you have a long work shift where you may not, there's no way you're going home and things are not going well, a box of cornstarch, if you don't have great, if you don't already have good gear that's failed on you, yes, something must be done so you can get through the day. It's well known. Do I have a secret rub or marinade? Not really. I make almost all my own rubs. Two secrets are using granulated onion, 2 parts granulated onion to 1 part granulated garlic tends to be a very good option in almost anything, from brines to back flavors on many things that you're making. I use a lot of fresh garlic, but if you need to up a flavor profile, using that to whatever level you think is a small, back flavor or more prominent. I use a lot of thyme. I really like fresh thyme. Fresh tastes way different than dry thyme. Dry thyme can become overpowering and sort of tea leaf ish in flavor. Yeah, a few drops of citrus juice or vinegar in chicken brines or rubs can do a lot to help tenderize, especially if you leave it overnight, up to 2 days. Um, that citrus juice or even a little white vinegar or cider vinegar can do really nice flavor, but also really nice tenderizing. Yeah, that's thyme and everything, and granulated garlic, granulated onion frequently. And I find those granulated items work better in a long rest marinade. That's going to be a day or two because I find the fresh garlic, especially even fresh onion, sometimes gets kind of fermenty and starts getting funny flavors, funky flavors when you want more of a fresher garlic. So that's a good way to do it. I don't even know what dragon eggs are. I probably should know, but I don't know. I have heard other people of goats that like to lick their legs and all kind. I think goats are, yeah. I've heard similar. I had a goat farmer next to me at the farmers market last year, and I interact with a goat farmer regularly and see her most weeks too. So yeah, I've heard all kinds of funny stories. Oh, okay. So the proper name for dragon eggs is a Scotch egg, which are phenomenally good. Yeah, so you take a hard-boiled egg or a lightly, a soft-boiled egg. You surround it in ground meat or ground sausage, and then you typically um, egg batter it and crumb it and deep fry it. By the time deep fries the sausage crispy outside, it rewarms the egg. Hopefully the egg is maybe a little runny or at least not fully set up if you like it that way. And they are amazing. Um, I've never had a smoked scotch. Okay, so that makes sense. But smoked. Yeah, that would be fun. We love Scotch eggs. I've seen they got really popular on appetizers a few years ago, and came back with a lot of the gastropub stuff, and they're inexpensive. The only problem with an appetizer, they're too filling. If you eat a full Scotch egg, that's like an entree. If you take a Scotch egg with some side green beans or a salad and maybe something else, you're done. Uh, so, but yeah, Scotch eggs are phenomenal, especially when the sausage is good and or homemade and the eggs are good. Um, that's pretty much a perfect meal. A pint of Guinness and a Scotch egg, and maybe a side of French fries or something. That's pretty good. Going to put cheese between the eggs and the sausage. I'd be really careful with that because the cheese can get really slippery and probably melt differently, and you may have it either fall off. The sausage will probably fall off, or it's possible that you'll get a bunch of steam. Well, there isn't a lot of water and cheese. So it may be all right. If you get a lot of steam in a fried item, it can explode and break open and cause the oil to penetrate and then fall apart. But I don't know if cheese would do that. So you have to let me know if that works. I would be careful and skeptical that cheese between those layers would work. I'm sure it tastes good. You could probably take a thick needle, like a brining needle, and inject liquid warm fondue into the egg after it came out and push a bunch of that into the middle of the yolk. That'd be pretty amazing. Yeah. Oh, you're gonna have them. Okay. Yeah, melting some good cheese, a sharp cheddar or something would be really good. Yeah, I haven't made Scotch eggs for a while, although I have homemade chorizo, hot and sweet sausage, in the freezer, and breakfast sausage works great too. Um, yeah, I maybe should think about making Scotch eggs sometime again. We're making dinners 5, 6, 7 nights a week. We usually have leftovers one week. Sometimes we get a pizza, or occasionally we order something or whatever. But I am cooking at least 5 nights a week for the last couple of years. Keeping a rapid repertoire that's not too hard to do, not overly expensive, and tasty. Yeah, we're always looking to add new things. So not yeah, and I've had them baked instead of fried. The traditional is fried to get them crispy and cook them fast. So the yolk stays. In a fancy restaurant, you want the yolk to be break open, warm, and gooey. But I think smoked would be great, and we've got a good smoker. We could do that. Yeah. Well, that looks pretty good. Yeah, I would definitely give that a try. And yeah, I'm trying to think what else we've done recently. That crab soup was probably the most traditional thing that I've done in a long, recently. But I've done a bunch of roasted chickens, and we've done, we throw in tamales, and we do pasta about once or twice a week. Right now, I'm mostly working with fresh summer vegetables and whatever scrap pastas we were either making that day or we're laying around leftovers.
Turn off?
Yep, they just killed it because the microwave. I'm like, what? Where, Dad? Microwave.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Mouse move.
Well, I can do it.
Okay, then end.
I have no problem ending it.
I forgot the microwave stuff. Live stream.